And Chairman Smith.
Here.
And let the record show that Town Manager Dunham and Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro and Town Clerk myself, Taylor, are also present.
Thank you, Rita. The next item is the swearing in of 3 members.
Yes, and we're going to all do this together.
Surprise! Did you get your letter? You didn't get your letter?
I got mine.
You got yours? Yeah. Yours must
Yes, it has. I agree with you. It has. Let's see.
Well, they must like you, Mr. Doherty.
You've already been trained. Thank you, Rita.
And if you 3 would please stand and raise your right hand and read the first paragraph there together.
I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of the planning board on which I am about to enter.
And if you will each sign right there, and then again at the very bottom line. And welcome aboard for another one. And also right. Fifth. Yes. Thank you all. Pleasure to have you aboard as always.
Thank you. You've all had the minutes for last month's meeting in front of you for this meeting. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, deletions, or changes? Yes, Malcolm.
Yeah, just on page 9 and 10, I'm referred to as Vice Mayor.
Oh, good.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Anybody else? Nope. We have a motion to dismiss the reading.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting held on February 25th, 2021.
As corrected.
Yes, sir. Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Doherty? Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mrs. Jones? Yes. And Chairman Smith?
Yes. Are there any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, or arrangements to the agenda as you see it in front of you? No. Under announcements, the next meeting will be April 22nd and May 27th. Again, if you aren't going to be able to attend any of those meetings, please let Rita know. Rita, I will not be here on the 27th.
Okay.
I do not think I will be here either.
Both in April?
No, no.
No,
May.
gotcha.
May.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move into the public portion of the hearing. Does anyone have any ex parte communications to declare? None? All right, would everyone stand who may speak at this meeting? And Rita, will you please administer the oath?
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please see that Renee, before you leave, has all your names. Either leave a card or tell us.
Okay.
I have a procedural question.
Sure. We have a landscaping proposal. It doesn't appear to be on the agenda at the moment.
The item, that's the last item on the agenda, right? It'll be covered.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. The first item on the agenda will be an application submitted by Mark Marsh for residence at 3212 Gulfstream Road. Mark, go ahead, please.
Good morning, for the record, Mark Marsh, architect, representing Ruth and Christopher, Lisa and Ruth. Lisa and Christopher Ruth. This house is 3212 Gulfstream Road, and it is a house that was built, I'll just give you a little history, in 1951. I would say it's a pioneer house in the town, and I think only Rita in this room could remember that.
Thank you for that comment.
The house is really quite I call it a colonial cottage in style. It's very traditional in its architectural statement. Nothing, very simple. But it's a really charming house, if anybody's been in it. It's got a lot of rooms that are very formal and small, most of them. And it's obviously had some renovations done over the years. The Ruth bought this in, I think, 2014. We did some renovation. And since then, they've been toying with how to really utilize the property and the house itself. And they came to us, and we spent a couple of months trying to analyze. Basically, what's missing are what we're accustomed to today are some of the lifestyle spaces, like a family room, office, and functional garage. So, if I can. I don't know if you can see that. I can barely see myself. The grayer shading there is the existing residence. And one of the uniquenesses, this wing, which is on the north side, was a one-car garage and a carport. And then there was a small little bedroom at the back here. And in looking at this project today, what we're here for is basically a request for a special exception for a non-conforming setback, which this north side represents. It's not that far from complying, but the request is to extend this non-conforming through the additions, which I'll explain shortly. As you can see, it's skewed on the lot, so that would tell me that these lot lines didn't even exist back then, and it may have been a larger lot, and then was subdivided. So it was created by process, not by planning. I've met with staff, and they agree that we have a good reason to request a special exception. Since for the planned expansion, we are proposing a new garage, two-car garage. Currently, there is, as I said, a carport and a single-car garage in this area. We want to modify the approach to the house. Currently, there is a circular driveway, a lot of paving, and we'd like to create a central entry to then create a motor court and then enter the garage as a side entry in lieu of a head-on, which I think is much more desirable. The other areas are an extension of, and I'll show you the plan, a family room, a new family room, and a new bedroom suite. There's also a minor expansion to the master bedroom area. In terms of the site, I'll be trying to be the landscape architect shortly, to try to give you an idea of what the proposal is in terms of landscaping. Here, we are planning to do 2 columns, just pier columns here, set inboard from the street. The rest of the site improvements exist, the pool exists. There is a new pergola and a loggia, what we call a winter porch addition here. Excuse me here. I can go to the plan. The areas that are highlighted are the expansion areas, and this is the reorganization. This is a new family roof. We're also intending, currently this wing of the house is down about 1.5 feet from the main floor of the roof.
No, you didn't answer the backwards.
Not possible to take this out there.
Yeah, you can take it off. You're fine, honey.
Thank you. I can breathe. There we go. Okay. What I was saying is that the wing in the north was 1.5 feet below the main house. This plan or proposal is to level the house so it's all in one level and raise that north wing. And I'll show you in the elevation shortly that we're not creating any abnormal height raising. I like the old-fashioned way.
I hear you.
At this point, I do too.
Right.
They are this.
That's what you thought was with the mom.
Yep. I was sitting there thinking, you're fighting your man.
I'm calling for help.
I'm sorry, everybody. Anyway. So we were on the second page, correct? So here we go. There you go. Now back to you.
Okay, so the plan is, as it said, there is a winter porch in this area here. And it's all very modest. The roof plan, the challenge with the roof is this is an abnormally low roof pitch, 3 and 12, which again was indicative of that era. So it's, what we're doing is the area that's hatched in is the new roofing, which ties in and conforms to match the existing slopes. So there's no, and this is the new front elevation. On the right is the new garage. And as you can see, the house is basically has a center area, which is the main entry, and the bedroom wings on either side. And then what we're proposing is this garage, northern wing expansion. And you will see we're bound to keep the roof pitch the same. So it's a very, it's a very low roof profile. This is the rear, which is the new bedroom wing and the winter porch, and that's the bedroom expansion. This is looking to the north from the south, and that's the new garage door on the side, which again is going to be quite traditional with a louvered and a pergola trellis element over the front door. The materials are going to match what's existing there. The house is kind of a pale cream, and it has that very nice, I call it up rubbing blue shutters as the highlighted element. This is where I'm going to get into trouble, because I don't have a landscape architect, so bear with me. One of the things on the landscaping is there are 2 Neuronia trees, which are really very mature, and those are going to be preserved, and the entry will come onto them with them creating a canopy over to the central motor court. I'll show the materials in the motor court shortly. There would be Chicago brick on this apron leading off Gulfstream Road, and there'll be gravel with some patterned, zoysia grass and gravel, crisscross pattern. The landscaping on the property is well established. The intention is to do a 2-tier hedge along the front here on Gulfstream Road. And then on the new additions, there will be a couple of bougainvillea standards or globes, some green ficus as a foundation planting. On the other addition, there's a huge mango tree here, which remains. There'll be a couple more bougainvillea here, a couple of Alexander palms here, which is an existing royal, crepe myrtle here, a couple of Japanese blueberries here, and then just really upgrading some of the foundation planting with some new ligustrum here. So it's going to be very much as you see it today, but just supplementing where we needed to with a new addition. This is kind of an image of that entry leading in through the center driveway, new driveway. This is the garage on the right. This is looking kind of a bird's eye view, looking down at the new garage. This is the entry to the house, which is this house. And this is the gravel driveway with the zoysia and gravel patterned motor court area. This is a rendering of what the garage would look like as you arrive. So it's really difficult to see any other part of the house. The amount of setback it has. So that's our presentation, and I'll answer any questions.
Good job on the landscaping.
Has there been any comments from neighbours?
No.
Mark, you were going to talk a little further about the exception, or the, you mentioned
It's just, it's allowed, you can expand a non-conforming in the same setback, and that's what we're requesting here. So it's nothing unusual.
What does it get to at the closest point in the back northwest corner, 12.8?
versus 15 and 17.
But again, I think historically it was just a line that was set on the side of the strange angle.
The house looks a little,
That's why that spatial exception is provided in the code.
excellent.
No questions?
I have one question. On the back side, is that a fireplace?
Yes.
What is the landscaping back there?
There is going to be a 2-tier hedge, and then there'll be 2 of those Japanese blueberries, which are kind of triangle.
Another existing or?
Not proposed.
Okay.
There's also that easement back there between properties on the other side.
No further questions or anything? If not, could we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a special exception to permit additions to a single-family dwelling with existing non-conforming setbacks.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Rita, please.
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes.
I'd like to make a further motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan review to permit the addition of a 2-car garage, a guest suite, and a minor addition to the west side of the master bedroom, based on a finding that the construction of a 2-car garage, a guest suite, and a minor addition to the west side of the master bedroom meets the minimum intensity design and applicable review standards.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
And Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you, Mark. You're on number 2 on the agenda also.
I'm pleased to say I had a landscape architect. Moving on, this is the house 330 Banyan. Kevin and Polly Baroni, bought some years ago and lived there and enjoyed living there. This is, I think everybody's familiar with it. It's quite a classic Bermuda style. But they did find that, they were missing some elements, and primarily it came down to creating a pool cabana that they could enjoy the pool area and had an area to kind of use. So the proposal today is to do an additional new pool cabana on the southeast corner of the property, which is aligned with the existing pool. Let me just back up, sorry, for the record, say Mark Marsh. Here's Mark Architect. Dustin Mizell is here, who's a landscape architect. We'll give you a presentation shortly. The alignment is on the pool, so everything is very axial, and they're fortunate that they had their amount of area to do this. It represents about a 400 square foot pool cabana. It's not attached to the main building. It's a freestanding accessory structure. It meets all the setbacks. So there's no special exception requirements or anything like that. The other minor addition is on the west side of the house, which the owner would like to extend a 4-foot projection from an existing den, because we've all suffered with home life and office life. He found that the den that currently is there is quite small, very small, and 4 feet is a nice addition. Again, this meets all the setbacks. There's no issues in terms of zoning. And let Justin explain the pool area and landscaping. Moving on. This is the main house and the new pool cabana, which is very modest. It's one room, basically flanked with a bathroom and a little kind of refreshment area, TV area. Again, the alignment is center on both. What's the master bedroom on the west side, so everything is well balanced. This is again, the floor plan. These are the elevations, mimicking obviously the style of the main house. Again, very modest. There'll be a landed door system, which will give them the ability to have open to the outside, the openness. And the materials are all matching, so basically a white house with a white roof, and the materials will match exactly with the main house. This just shows the little expansion on that west end of the existing den area. Again, it's no impact. With that, I'll ask Justin to come up and just go through some of the hardscapes and landscaping.
Good morning. Unlike the imposter before me, I am a landscape architect. My name is Dustin Mizell, Environment Design Group. Just here, real quickly, I'll take you through the project. On the west side of the pool, there's an existing terrace, as you see in the photograph on the top right. It's a beautiful old coral banding with the red striking brick inlay in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're just going to mirror it on the east side. So the pool will be very, very balanced. And also we're going to address the south property line. Right now, it's just a wall with columns, and it's screened with bougainvillea, but it's not growing at all because it's facing north and too much shade and scattered with some various palms. So we're going to remove the bougainvillea against the wall, expose the wall, put citrus pots aligned between the columns, aligned with Japanese blueberry standard trees, as you see in the photo image on the bottom left. So it's going to be a really nice formal colonnade down this formal creative garden. Replace the lawn, level a little better, and also add some bougainvillea around the new pool house because it's facing west, so the flower fantastic, and some pots with some citrus trees. So I think it'll feel very old Florida and very charming. requirements. I don't know if you have the rendering, Mark, and then,
So,
you gotta go.
thanks, yes. This is a rendering of the existing pool area. There is a tent-like structure which they've been trying to work with currently, and it's not really satisfying what their needs are. So this is what we're proposing. Again, you can see it balances with the house. The pergola on the west side of the proposed cabana will reflect what occurs here on this pergola. So it's all, the goal is to make it look as if it was there from the start. So I think we succeeded in doing that, and I hope that you should, we'll answer any questions.
I have a question. The landscaping that, the new layer of landscaping you put in on the other side of the pool, on that photograph, does it have what is that wall, the barrier? Is that it looks like a structure in the drawing. If you go back to the layout.
Right here?
Yes, down there.
Okay, let me see if I can go in real quick. Oh, it doesn't zoom in. Okay, no, right here in the center now?
Yes.
Yeah, right here in the center, there's actually an existing, fountain right now.
Yes.
Super underwhelming and unimpressive. We may, add something a little more impressive there. In the meantime, we're gonna put some travel palms in the center, so it's a little bit of a central focal point, and then either an extension of some flowers, or just something, to kind of be a central node. But it may develop into, reclaiming the little fountain that might be there. We're still kind of triggering that, but thank you. But it's not a structure or anything, it's just kind of an accent landscape.
Right.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, is the wall next to it where you just have a white wall with the Japanese blueberry? Are you just gonna leave that wall flat white like that? Or are you gonna plant in front of it?
We're gonna put some vines in front of it as well.
Oh, okay.
And there's an existing clusia that will stay behind it, which is very nice.
Can you go to the next slide? Going back from there. Usual comment, any comments from neighbours, especially if you can see the house you can see there, their view's gonna change slightly.
There's been no comments.
Okay.
Not from that, a little bit of, there's a huge amount of Eureka palms.
Sleight of hand imagery?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And that house is across the street.
So, yeah, considering that.
Yeah, there's a street, across the road.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Not, if we have a motion to approve.
Yep, in that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan review to construct a 59 square foot addition on the west side of the existing dwelling and the construction of a 428 square foot pool cabana at the east end of the existing pool, replacing the existing awning based on a finding that the 59 square foot addition and the pool cabana meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1. Any minor modifications in the approved landscaping shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications to the approved landscape shall be submitted to the ARP for review and approval before any commencement of work.
Okay.
Moved and seconded, Rita?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. The third item is a continuation from the hearing that started on February 28th. My neighbor and I are a part of that application, and therefore I'm going to be recusing myself and step down, and Malcolm, you will serve as chair.
Thank you, Council.
Oh, also, I had a ex parte communication. I went to visit with the town manager and the applicant, Mr. Stephen Benjamin, and we spent about an hour on the site.
Okay, thank you. For the record, I formally accept the resignation as Council Chair, and with that, I'd like to move on to item 3, as Tom said, on the agenda, continuing, continuation of the application we first heard on 2/25/21. Who is presenting the case on behalf of the applicant? Would you like to take a turn, give your name?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. My name is William Steyer, with Shelby Sale and Steyer, and I'm here to proceed with the continuation. Last meeting, the plans were presented to you, illustrating what was being proposed, which included the new bulkhead and the new dock for Mr. Benjamin and Mr. Smith. At that meeting, there were some concerns raised regarding the access to the site for construction, the roadway, the canopy of the roadway, and the visibility of what would be seen as you pass down the road looking into the driveway at the west end. After that meeting was tabled, today we have additional members of the team present to help answer any of those questions that were raised at the last meeting. They include Mr. Benjamin, the owner, Mr. Robbins, the council, myself, who's the civil engineer, Chris Cavesa, the landscape architect, Arthur Tiedemann, who is the seawall and general contractor, and John Gunlock, who is the property manager. So I'd like to, turn this over to probably Chris Cavesa to speak about the landscaping that's being considered for the views.
Yeah, you can go down. And we've also got some handouts for everybody. Hello, my name is Chris Cavesa. I'm the landscape architect for the project. I have some printouts. Is there?
Yeah.
Should I just hold them up?
We got the boards behind all the
Yeah, if you can just explain what we're seeing, please.
So for the last meeting, we submitted for the southern border with Mr. Smith's property, but then the community had some questions about the northern side. So this is a conceptual plan showing where we're going to beef up the landscaping on that northern west side to screen the views into where the expanded waterfront is going. So that should totally mask all the views inside using a very heavily native canopy of trees, large shrubs, small shrubs. There's a few other areas where we're going to fill in some gaps. And then this also shows the rendering on the southern border, which is what we submitted last month, but we didn't get to review, showing the clusia hedge between the two properties, and then a cluster of sable palms, some gumbo limbo trees, a row of royal palms, and then some other accent trees along the new waterfront. That's what I have for you today.
Right, and what I'm going to do is, technically that wasn't the concern last week. I'm going to reference the minutes that we made last week. Sorry, the minutes we approved, and addressing the points here very clearly, landscaping. Can I ask anybody from the floor, do they have any comments on this? Or does it address the concerns which we're essentially seeing to the north?
Hi, I'm Tom Barton, and
Sorry, can you take this stand? I've got you on record. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Tom Barton, and I live at 9 Driftwood Landing, and along the canal. adjacent to the Benjamin property and just in front of the Smith property. So I'm more affected by this project than anybody. I was at the last meeting and I didn't speak up because Steve and I were in the process of trying to work out an arrangement because we had some issues that were in dispute. And I had believed that, you know, so I believe in people and I believe in working with my neighbors. And I believed that I would get what I needed from him before this meeting. And as it was thought, we met a couple of times, things did not go well, so I in turn engaged Tom Murphy to represent me. And Tom and I and Steve and his lawyer have met 2 weeks ago at his request at my house on Sunday at 5 o'clock in the evening. Which you can imagine if you were told on Saturday night that you need to meet us on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Thank God we were able to get everything ready, and we were there, and we discussed what, and they were very accommodative to our request. And then the next day, we provided a summary, a return sheet of what it was we needed to clarify, which we did within 24 hours, and then we didn't hear anything. And then 2 days ago, we have the necessary preliminary agreements that have been made up to support, you know, the contentious issues as we see that maybe we can resolve ourselves internally without necessarily involving, you know, the whole town in it. And we think we're at a stage now where we can put it together, but there is still some language that has to be articulated in a way to satisfy both parties. So, you know, I'm not really comfortable in going any further because I don't want to, I mean, I want to be a good neighbor, but I also don't want to be trampled.
Can I ask if these issues, and obviously they're, you know, between parties, do those directly impact what we're addressing today? The points of the design, points that were raised at the last meeting? Or is this something else? You said there are issues you have.
So this is directly relevant to the whole construction project.
Okay, thank
I mean, if you want to look at a picture, it's that when you look at the picture of the basin, the water basin, and you see where it cuts out into Tom Smith's property on the south, and you go west along that line, my property connects to that. So this construction project is going to be like, you know, just on my property line. So I would say, yes, it affects me with respect to everything about this project. With respect to the landscaping, with respect to, you know, the change, the loss of privacy, with respect to, you know, whose land is what, whose land is whose. So, yeah, it affects me in every single way.
Do you want me to
Yeah, it's the reason I'm walking on. I just was talking because you weren't here, and I didn't know at what point you weren't here.
Sorry, I was in the lobby waiting. Good morning, members.
Good morning.
Yes.
He needs to be sworn in, afraid he wasn't here.
Oh,
Pleasure.
good morning.
How are
You
you?
swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So just to enlighten the members of the,
Your name and your, are you a lawyer?
yes,
Is that anything?
Tom Murphy.
Thank you.
I represent the owner of the adjacent property, Tom Barton. I also represent Jim Trelizzi, my neighbor, who is on the intercoastal, corner of the intercoastal and the canal in River Landing. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to summarize where we are at this point.
Tom, can I just interject? You can take your mask off, you're further away, if you can, please.
So, as Mr. Barton said, a week ago last Sunday, we met at Mr. Barton's property. It was Mr. Benjamin, Mr. Robbins' counsel, Jim Trelizzi, I, Tom Barton, and went over the problems that still needed to be remedied following the last meeting of the RPD. And I'm happy to tell the members of this committee that we are this close to resolution. It's complicated in the sense that there are 4 easements. We have easements that are construction easements, and we have easements running in perpetuity with respect to property adjacent to the new project that has been applied for by Mr. Benjamin. So the remaining issues are the number of boats in the basin. One of the things that Mr. Benjamin has agreed to is a limitation on the number of boats and where they are parked. Mr. Benjamin has a beautiful beach and yacht, approximately 62 feet. He wants that, a tender, and another support vessel, I'll call it, which would be parked up in the north and northeast corner of the property. That doesn't interfere with Mr. Barton's views or anything else. What we did want to discuss was the following. Mr. Barton's seawall now ends at approximately 40 feet east of the new proposed seawall going from west to east, being constructed on the south side of the canal by Mr. Benjamin. There's an interesting squib to all of this, and that is the legal description of Mr. Benjamin's property, which says in part that his property goes to the face of a bulwark. And I never acceded to the fact that that means that Mr. Barton, whose land adjoins that 50 feet, gave up his riparian rights. But we're not going to litigate that. Rather, we're going to do it by easement, so that Mr. Benjamin has been kind enough to offer a perpetual easement with respect to any encroachment by that 40 feet of his existing seawall, because of the work that is done below the water and also the cap of the wall, number one. We resolved an issue as to whether or not people can walk on the new seawall, which will be wholly on Mr. Benjamin's property. That is to say, the landward side is Mr. Barton's, the wall on the seaward side is Mr. Benjamin's. We resolved that this morning by agreeing that only adults can walk on the wall. No one wants to get hurt. Number 2, in order to put in Mr. Smith's seawall and Mr. Barton's new seawall, the 50 feet going east of the existing Barton wall, Mr. Benjamin wants to anchor his new seawall on the landward side, which is totally owned by Barton. So think of it, the south side of the 50 feet and the west side of Mr. Smith's new wall. We agreed that if there is erosion, because there is none now, because it adjoins land, they will indemnify holders harmless, and on notice we have to repair, they'll agree to that. Lastly, as a part of our negotiations, and I didn't get the information until 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and so we are pressed to respond. There was a clause that was written into the easement involving the new 50 feet that Mr. Benjamin would be able to park a boat there, not to exceed 23 hours temporarily. We agreed this morning that, I think Mr. Benjamin agreed, that a boat could be parked there no more than 48 hours in any 30-day period. Otherwise, you could interpret that clause to mean every 23 hours you can park the boat again. So, we are in principle agreeing to Mr. Benjamin's permit application, but we cannot finish our writing today. We cannot clean things up during the pendency of this meeting. We don't want to impede the process because I know the clock is ticking in terms of Mr. Benjamin's trying to complete this project before the end of November. So I don't know whether you can fashion a recommendation to the commission by stating that the parties agree in principle, that is Mr. Barton and Mr. Benjamin, and that they are going to work diligently, to finalize those three issues. Mr. Robbins, Ken Robbins, who is Mr. Benjamin's very able lawyer, I know I can work with to get this thing done quickly. But is that a fair representation of what we've agreed to?
Yeah, Tom said.
Could you give your name, sorry, could you?
Ken Harrison Robbins. I'm an attorney. I represent Mr. Benjamin and his wife. That's the correct representation by Mr. Murphy. We work very well together. This thing will be resolved before the commission meeting, so you could put something in the record saying that we will finalize the paperwork prior to the time of the commission meeting. And that's done ordinarily in the meetings. The paperwork will be finalized after. Okay?
One of the central tenants.
I have one correction to that, there's 5 units.
I'm sorry. Yes, there are 5 easements.
For the record, can we just have to make that comment, please? Sorry.
Stephen Benjamin.
Yeah, sorry, it's just procedural, we have to have you on record. Okay.
Do you want Mr.
No, just speak for you, fine.
Mr. Benjamin just made that correction. There are 5 easements. I'm sorry that I didn't make that clear.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
I have a question, do they concern the other neighbors, are the points that they just covered, do they?
No.
One other thing, thank you for raising that. Necessarily, when Mr. Benjamin finishes his project, he will have to dredge the canal. We know that the town has the largest seawall on that canal, which is the bird sanctuary. Mr. Chalizzi is on the corner, then Ken Johnson, and then the Fishers, and then the Fishers, and then the Bardens, and then no boats. Now, you'll have boat traffic. It washes between the walls. There's necessarily disturbance, and so that's a whole other issue. We're not here today. Mr. Benjamin is going to, of course, seek another permit, and we'll go through that process. But all the neighbors will meet. Mr. Benjamin said we will invite everyone. We'll try to work this thing out amicably, and so we're not coming in a contentious situation before the ARPB or the commission. And I think I've covered everything. Steve, Ken, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So to address the point you made about us conditionally potentially making a recommendation of petition, we can do that. One of our central tenets is to take consideration of the neighbours, and obviously, Mr. Barton, you are in discussions to address your concerns. We could make that a condition if this moves forward to the commission. Absolutely. You've obviously done an awful lot of work. There are other points to address, your point, which we have to address. But in terms of the concerns that Mr. Barton has with Mr. Benjamin, that seems to be in hand, under control, and we can definitely make that part of the recommendation going forward. That would be in place prior to any presentation if it goes forward to the commission.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I'm sure we're related at some point. Okay, so what I wanted to do was really the points that were raised at the last meeting. This is what I'm using as our reference point. The landscaping issue, which was point 5 on our minutes. We had the proposal of what the additions to what we saw at the last meeting. Any comments on that proposal? On the floor? Sorry,
Jennifer Morris, I live at 24 South Hidden Harbor. There were a lot of questions last meeting that we all asked about the construction, the damage to the road, the canopy, the kind of equipment that's going to be coming in, how much equipment, how often, and we had a lot of questions about that, and that was supposedly going to be answered before we start again.
Right. And that's why what I want to do is make sure we're going to really identify each one of those points. Because in our minutes, everything you raised, but not just yourself, but the grade has been identified. So landscaping was a major concern of screening to the north. So what the applicant has tried to address that, and I have to put it to the floor with specific reference to what's proposed for the landscaping. Has that met your concern?
I haven't seen an elevation, I have to see it, you know, we only saw an aerial, so,
Okay.
that's really secondary to everything else prior to the construction. It's much more of our concern at the moment. Obviously, if it gets approval, then that landscaping is key, because that's the only thing that's going to prevent us from seeing this. Mr. Barton will be seeing all of it.
Thank you. In that case, what I'd like to now do you have some point you wanted to raise.
With the landscaping, can you say native trees and shrubs, like, what exactly are we talking about?
Hello, Chris Cabezas. It's a variety of native trees. For a canopy layer, that would be 6 feet and up. Then shrubs, you'd have large shrubs from 3 foot to 6 foot. Then you'd have ground cover covering the bottom 24 inches. So it's the plan would be a full screening with very little views inside.
Is the 6 foot something that will grow or it stays?
It'll grow. That's to fill in as high as it can go.
Do you have any specific species you're talking about?
Yes, we can use green buttonwoods, black ironwoods, silver buttonwoods. There's, many, many choices. We haven't gotten to the details yet of that, but it would fit the character of hidden harbor.
What we do is with the previous presentation, we have a detailed landscape plan that has been requested, especially with construction that could potentially impact neighbours. We do ask for elevations, but moving forward again, we could make that a condition that we see an elevation, right, with detailed, itemized plans. As we've been used, you can see examples with the town, they can show you what's expected, just in terms of what you're putting in. Obviously, this is schematic and representative, but it's not the detail that we expect for a landscape plan. But yes, you have obviously thought it through, the details, but we could make that potentially a condition moving forward.
I think so.
Yes?
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Are there any more questions on the landscaping? In that case, I'd like to, one of the points that was raised at the last meeting was the impact on the canopy entrance. That was a major consideration. Has that been discussed and addressed?
I can help with that.
Thank you. Thanks, President.
I'm Arthur Tiemann, 5 Driven Marine. Looking forward to helping everybody out here. I'm glad that we're coming to a point where we're getting together and looking to make this happen. So, as far as the canopy that comes in, our equipment, if anyone is unfamiliar with what an excavator looks like on a lowboy, I can pass this around, but this is roughly a 40 to 50,000 pound excavator on a standard lowboy, 12 to 13 foot tall. Shouldn't have any issues with hitting the main part of the canopy. If there's a low lying, rogue branch, I'm not saying we won't, but we can take care of that. We can trim it up, as we see fit. We're either going to have 1 to 2 of these, depending on availability, depending on logistics. So 1 trip in, 1 trip out on the excavator. We'll also have a loader to load up the material into the dump trucks. We're going to use standard triaxle dump trucks to haul the material out.
I can see.
Oh, yes, no problem. Yeah, can you just pass this around?
Okay, thank you.
Standard triaxle dump trucks to haul the material out. Logistically, this is the only option. To haul it out by barge, we have to dig deeper than that canal could support to get a big enough barge in there to haul it out by barge. So logistically, hauling it out with, triaxle dump trucks is really our only option. So I'm passing. Chris also addressed that, we're gonna have a temporary fence and gate for our men to come in, access, and then use the, yes. So if you see up in this corner, it's difficult to see here, but the road, we've created an access point that makes sense logistically to prevent the least amount of impact on the road. I believe we have a safeguard in place for the road as far as repairing, minor things. We are, it's construction, you're gonna see, quite a few dump trucks going through there. So, if there's potholes that are existing or deficiencies that are existing, and we may exacerbate those, but I think we're prepared to.
I think at the last meeting, it was a 5,000 deposit surety, but also there was an indication that any major, the town could claim back any major damage which is beyond that budget.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to see this?
What is the approximate, sir, the approximate height of that Komatsu on the low boy?
On the low boy, roughly 12'6" to 13 foot.
13 feet.
Yes. It's pulled down.
Yes.
Very low.
And
they get under bridges.
And do you know what the height of the waste management truck would be?
That comes. Same thing, 12'6". 16 foot is pretty tall. You're not gonna see much of anything that goes down the road without a load assist or special transport that's tall, under 16 foot. And I believe the majority of the canopy is above that, or in that range. Yeah, it's quite high.
Okay.
This drawing specifically that she didn't show you, those, where that pink line is, are where there are 4 very large, I think they're called, something almond palms, whatever. These were discussed at the last meeting. They said they weren't gonna touch them. That pink line puts it right through one of those trees. This is exactly what they said they weren't going to do, because if you see the way that the driveway is angled, they said they were going to back up and cut this way. And now they said they're putting in a temporary drive, which would take one of those trees down, I'm assuming if you're gonna bring equipment across that pink line.
Can I respond to that? Yeah, hang on, we do it one at a time, please. Mrs. Morris, can you put that on record, please? But also, and then Mr. Benjamin, absolutely. And this helps address the other point in our minutes, which says specifically there will be no removal of aged trees.
Well, that pink line goes right through, there's 4 large trees there.
Okay.
That is a complete change of what they said they were gonna access the property last year.
So,
As I remember the recording.
could you address that point?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Maybe a actual photo of the job site that relates and shows the specific trees and where we're actually, I believe we discussed it was gonna go through where those aretas and that one, is it a one sable palm?
No, they were gonna go between the
I'm
last.
sorry, I was talking to Chris back
Yeah,
there.
we located an area where there's space, and it wouldn't affect any of the existing trees.
Okay.
I don't agree 100%. This is exactly what they said they weren't going to do. This is absolutely not true. We have to review the minutes from the last meeting, because we were specifically told that these machines would come up back in and cut through, I specifically asked, between this outbuilding and the trees. And now there's a pink line right where those large trees are. So this is absolutely not true.
May I say something? Yes, Chris, okay, cool. This is a public meeting.
My name is John Dunlop, I'm the property manager at Lemon Hill. This is just an arbitrary drawing, I was sketched it to show you yesterday. It's actually much further away from those trees. The greens that's on here are the things that will be added by First Basis down the road to BSOP. So that's all that green on there. The blue that's in here are the trees that are already existing, and they are going to be remaining, and they're even going to be protected with fencing.
So to be clear, we do respect the request, and that's why an actual photo of where we're actually gonna go through.
Why do you need a temporary use?
To help with privacy and just keep the construction site safe.
Mr. Morrison.
Joe Morris, 24 Nava Drive. I think it should be settled just so you can take a visit down there after they mark out where they want to come in, and you'll decide whether they're going to move the trees or not.
Well, I was going to make a suggestion as well. One of the things that if this moves forward, we've already said we need a detailed landscape plan.
No question,
Therefore,
no question.
because this, and I'm going to say, an arrow through here, I don't know if it's to the left or the right. You can't work to a line that's drawn like that. You have to work to a set plan.
We had a month to prepare for this meeting. He
Yes.
just admitted he put a pink line on the drawing last night.
Right. So obviously, on the landscape plan, which is very specific about what's going in, if this moves forward, it could be a condition that the specific access to that property would be shown.
Well, as long as we're doing that, I prefer that they come in on the east driveway, so they don't come down this way at all. I've looked at that, you can get in that way. It's a little tight if you can do it.
Hold on, the east driveway, right?
Negative.
And that's the best way to get in.
Oh,
Behind the pool?
No. You look at the east driveway?
yeah, okay, so you meaning on the property?
No problem, just come in that way and you would negate the problem and they'll go out the same way. The only thing that has to move on the road is the excavator, you can't help that.
But I think what we could do is when we see the specific proposal, because you couldn't do your construction site on a just a line drawn.
Yes.
However, the applicant obviously has thought this through, but it needs to be shown exactly how it's going to happen. And then, Mr. Morris, at that point, if this moves forward to the commission, you could say, okay, this is the exact point where the proposal is, and then go down that.
Well, they're proposing the west side, I'm proposing the right.
Okay.
Okay, so we're east, they're west.
Okay.
One on each side.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
With the exception of the excavator.
The excavator has to be brought in, however you have to bring it. I would prefer the excavator brought into the road, in the road here, back up the driveway here and come in, not through here at all, just back up and come in. There's no reason to disturb anything over here, because they don't have to.
Can you look that up and show?
What I'm suggesting, they bring the excavator in here, they back up the road and come in. Right, so it doesn't come through a tree line, there's no reason to come through a tree line. They did this when they wanted the trucks. I'm telling you, trucks would come in here like this, come out this way. I'm still going to discuss the bonding as well, which one we get to.
Okay. So, just to summarize.
It sounds like we need to prepare a document with dimensions on it.
Yeah, and because we're talking about a line which is, I don't know, and I can say.
Yes, we understand.
Great, okay.
And then just.
So the owner agrees, Ted Robbins for the record, the owner agrees that we will provide detailed plans to staff before the commission meeting. At that time, we will clearly define not only the landscaping, but also the driveway. And we will prepare it in such a way as to preserve the aged trees, as it's referred to. And we have no intent to hurt any of the trees, and we will document that. And we will provide a copy to our neighbors, so they'll be able to speak if I'm telling that we're not going to hurt any trees.
Thank you very much.
Personally, I'm a tree hugger myself.
Okay, thank you. So of these items that went through, it was, I'm sorry. Yeah.
My name is William Martin, I live down on 12 South Hidden Harbor Drive. I just, I'm gonna have some other comments later on, but I wanted to just take exception to comments that you made, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Arthur. In regards to moving the excavator into the property. At our previous meeting, I expressed my concern regarding the canopy that goes over Hidden Harbor Drive and how valuable I think that is to the aesthetics of the whole neighborhood. Arthur said that your excavator wouldn't hit any trees coming in. He said, with the exception of maybe some branches that he would have to trim as he sees fit. I take exception to you being the judge of what needs to be taken down, because if it's a big branch and I'm taking down it down, and if it was a mistake to take it down, it's too late. So I'm not comfortable with that.
At the moment, I don't see any branches or anything that would cause any issue, and I shouldn't be the one that makes that decision, I'm fine with that.
No, the spirit of the message was received, but the exact words are taken on board, absolutely. Okay, thank you. The other, so going through our checklist, the canopy, the removal of those trees we discussed, that road damage, the town staff have confirmed that we have a surety in place, and any major damage, we could get back from the town could get back. Town manager.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would make a suggestion with respect to the road. Like our contractor out here on A1A, when we put in the new water main, they filmed the roadway and the rights of way on both sides of A1A, so they would have a record of what it looked like before the work was done. I would suggest that the applicant do that.
It seems reasonable, literally the before and after. Okay, thank you. The other point.
I want to make a point. I'm not sure I'm happy to learn something that's conceptual and schematic at all, hearing about all these things. This is contentious. There's counsel in the room, and I'm not going to agree something that's a schematic and a conceptual. I don't know how you guys do it.
I think one of the things all the way through is that if this moves forward with the commission, we've addressed many points here. That's all your points all taken.
I think it's an excellent plan. I just think it should be, I was at 1 hour at the site. I think this can really work, in my opinion, but I don't think there's enough here to get both sides comfortable, or to get us comfortable, me comfortable, I should say. And that's how I feel.
Thank you, Bob. But I do want to raise the points that were raised at the last meeting, as well. There was a discussion about, and this was your point about Mrs. Tui's deed,
Yes.
about subdivisions.
Yes.
Did we look at that at all?
I was sent a copy.
Sorry.
This is on the
Sorry,
copy
the town,
of the
because it was a
original,
request.
It wasn't clear. I just know after speaking with her, that was her intention.
Right.
And I believe that this absolutely violates her wishes.
Could I get that? That's not true. Well, that aside.
I'm saying from a personal standpoint,
Right.
after speaking with her, I personally feel it violates her wishes. Legally, it may not.
But legally, is the press is going to drive us.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying
Okay.
what I know
Thank you.
and how I feel about my neighborhood.
Just for the record, I'm looking at the covenant, and the covenant was very clear. The covenant limited the size of the residence and permanent structures to 15,000 square feet. My client took it knowing that restriction would be on the site and accepted it. And it also said it could not be subdivided. Those were the two conditions, and he bought it with those conditions and respect those conditions. And everything that you see he's doing is just enhancing his residential use. And in fact, he's looking to enhance what is there and respect the historic structure there. So I think we're there, and I think everybody really has the same purpose as intent. I don't think anybody here has that intent. They're just trying to make certain that their neighborhood is safe because they don't have control once we take over the site and start to work. We intend to work with staff, and we will work with the details with staff before we go to the commission and make absolutely certain that these details are communicated with our neighbors and they fully understand. We understand their concerns, we will address their concerns, and we respect those concerns. And we have no intent to do anything other than that. I understand there are a lot of developers out there that do not respect residences. We live there, we intend to live there for the decades. And we want to make our neighborhood as best as we can, and we want to enjoy it. And that's our pure intent is the process. We live there, we're not here to sell it, we're there to stay there forever. So I really appreciate your help, and we will work together continue to work with the neighbors. I know they're concerned, and I understand their emotion, because their emotion is they are looking to you to protect them. But we have a commission,
and we have provisions that can be put in very clearly, that everything has to be vetted by staff, and staff will look at all the details. And I'm a land use attorney, been a land use attorney now, practicing law for 42 years, and probably handled 2,000 hearings of this nature. And I've represented both developers, and I've represented the neighbors, mostly neighbors. And very often I've been representing people just like this. And I get exasperated about what goes on. But we will handle those details, and I assure you that when it gets to the commission, there will not be anybody having any question about our living tent.
Yeah, I think, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so, and I'm glad that they want to work with the staff very closely. I do have to remind everybody here that the commission meeting is on April 9th. And, we send out our, packet a week before, so that really means we need to have these documents next week.
And I believe there's really 2 points here. We make recommendations to the commission, correct? We can, it's appearing we have 2 options here. To make a recommendation to the commission of some sort, and if it moves forward with conditions, or the fact that we need to see what we're actually, in more detail, what's going forward. I mean, Bob, you've already said we see it as a project that can work, but in terms of the detail that we see, I've written down 3 conditions here at the moment, that we'd asked for, and that seems an awful lot that we haven't seen. Is it pushing too much up the line to the commission to say, guys, we want you to do the lifting? Our job is, the ARPB, is to have all the information. And as I say, the concession was made at the beginning, not concession. The potential to move forward with the discussion between Mr. Barton and Mr. Benjamin, that's obviously very, very close. But the detail of the access, clear landscape plans, my feeling is that's a central part of our recommendation.
Mm-hmm. And I'd be willing to convene this meeting a lot quicker, in a couple of days, if that would be helpful. But so to not hold up the commission. But right now, I just can't see being asked at a time and vote on, drawings that are schematic and conceptual in light of what I heard. But I could meet in 2 or 3 days, we recall this thing up, and I don't know if the landscape architect can move that fast.
Can I make a procedural question? If we meet again, would it before, so we could try and hit the deadline, do we have to make a public announcement again within a number of days because we have a public attending? Could we actually do it?
Yeah, it could be called by the chair, so we could easily make that work. I just don't know, given the time frame between the commission meeting, if that would be feasible.
It also, Mr. Murphy said we're this close, we need another day or 2 or something to get that entanglement with the paper. That could be taken care of, and that would be a nice little, check off the list.
And the condition, and the landscape plan, the big things coming out, the detailed landscape plan. The other thing is an elevation, because one of the things we do ask for on buildings, that we have to see, what will it be day 1, not what does it grow into. That may be
from each angle, neighbors view.
Yeah, that's a critical part of the whole, where's Mr. Basis? Way back there, the detail right here is going to be critical. I think you realize that, right? We need a lot of detail on that part right there.
So what elevation from that point, what's the plan?
Plus showing where you're going to get that, the excavator in, and the dump trucks taking all these fill out.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, we'll get together in short order, go over there, get some dimensions. As the contractor, I would like to still try and use this area. Logistically, it's easier for us to come in and out of, and also respectfully, the driveway through Mr. Benjamin's property is probably not able to handle the traffic that would incur.
It's tight, but we can handle it.
Not like the actual construction of the road, like you probably, you know.
You know, we're both from the loads you're gonna have. By the way, I'm a developer, so I understand all this stuff. I'm telling you, come in here, it doesn't mess with us down here, it'll solve a lot of problems. So you should think about coming over there, measure it, see, do it, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll move over there, but maybe we can,
okay,
look at it together.
I want to avoid this whole area, there's no reason to do it, keep an area, somebody at one time will be here, that's it, you don't have to.
So can I sort of try and summarize where we're at, from the feedback from the board? We can see a way forward. There's been an awful lot of discussions taking place. There's a willingness expressed by Mr. Robbins to work with everybody. The feeling is we want to try and get this, if we're going to put it forward to the commission, to hit the meeting, right? However, the only way we can do that is to get the information we need to make the decision on. And can we have that meeting? Can you produce that information we requested in time? What's your deadline for submission onto the town commissioning?
Well, I mean, so next week, we'll be working on putting this packet together. I mean, we'll be doing that all week.
What's your drop dead date? No, when you say basically if it's not here by this date, it doesn't go.
I understand. I mean, so, in addition to that, the town is closed on Good Friday, which is Friday,
right,
of that week.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so the goal is to get it out. Normally, we get it out by the Friday before the next meeting on Friday. I would say that at least Tuesday or Wednesday. What do you think, Rita?
Yep.
I mean, because it takes several days to get this together.
Oh, I know, yeah, there's a lot of work. So essentially, the information, we haven't really met, we can say we go down the route of saying, please come back with a very detailed request list. Yeah, that's the latest we can meet would be Tuesday morning.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah? Okay.
That's Tuesday, the
30th? 30th?
Yes, I think Tuesday, the 30th.
Okay.
Next Tuesday is the 30th.
Yeah. And the other thing is, do we have a quorum?
Yeah. Are y'all all available on that day?
March 3rd, I was in, so that's
I'm at a time, hold on.
That's tomorrow. I come on Monday, so the meeting will be on Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you'd also have to have any concerns about,
I can get it.
and I think that would be good. So just from a quorum point of view, Mr. Bob.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I can take care of it.
Yeah.
And to ask a question of the construction, the contractors. Because, you know, I'm sitting here, listen, I'm here February 27th, as I said, and I didn't get involved because I really was expecting that I would have the deal done, but, you know, time keeps moving forward, and, you know, the other party doesn't seem to be as anxious as I am, because I want to make sure that.
Sorry, could I ask the floor? Mr. Barton, I'm going to give you the respect for your time. Who's there? Quiet, please. Thank you.
So, I mean, there's two things. One that I wanted to say is that, you know, I like the fact that we're setting a deadline on it, which is, you know, you gotta have this by Tuesday, because you've got to be prepared for Wednesday. And all I've been dealing with for the last 30 days is my anxiousness to try to come to a deal, such that 2 weeks ago, I took a call on Saturday night and said, meet me at your house at Sunday, and I'm bringing a lawyer, do you mind? And I'm going, well, I'm not gonna meet with you with a lawyer, unless I have a lawyer representative. So I went out, and luckily Tom Murphy was available. He gave up his dinner that night so that he could be at this meeting. So we did everything that we could to be good neighbors. And then the next day, on Monday, you know, they had agreed that they would do a term sheet, but they didn't do it. So they said, you should do it. So we did it. We gave it to them the next day. We don't hear anything for 10 days. So now we're at a point where we're in agreement in principle on many things, but there's a few things that are still contentious and disputed. And we appreciate the fact that you would make your opinion conditional on working with us. And so I'm saying, you know, based on experience, I know that this thing is going to drag on. I don't want to get a final agreement to read on Tuesday night so that I can get it to you guys for Wednesday. So I'm going to say right now that if I'm involved and I'm working with this, I would like to see it tomorrow. And I would like to have at least 24 hours look at it. I would like to be proactive and get it done ahead of time.
Mr. Martin, we can actually say, forget what I said to you, the actual intricacies of how you come to an agreement, because that's been explained, is up to you with Mr.
I understand, but I'm
We
just
could-
basically putting everybody on notice, that this is something, that to me, is very simple, you know? That, you know, timing is of the essence, so act accordingly.
Right, and we leave that to you parties to discuss that, because we would simply turn around and say, it is a condition, how you get there, or whether you get there or not.
Right.
It's up to you to get there.
Well, I'm just saying that, you know, it's possible we may not get there.
Right.
The second thing I wanted to ask is the contractor is that, you know, I'm listening to the Morrises and their problems with, you know, their tree line, which, you know, I mean, personally, I think that that's probably resolvable in some way. But I'm gonna be like looking at a quarry, an open pit mine that's gonna be digging and excavating on my property, taking out my fence, my borderline. So there's gonna be like dirt and debris and dust everywhere. And one of the conditions on our term sheet said that they would clean it up. And the lawyer representing Steve said that, oh, we'll have somebody there every day to clean up. Because, you know, I got 3,900 square feet of white patio. I'm gonna be putting in new grass because I'm just finishing a construction project and I'm putting landscaping back. And I don't want to look at it like I'm in, you know, a low rent district and stuff after this is all done. And I didn't pay for that. And so, you know, I can deal with the fact as a good neighbor that my neighbor wants to do this project and it'll look great for him and it'll look good for me, I guess, if he puts the right landscaping to it. But there's gonna be a lot of cost that I'm gonna have to bear as a result of this. And I would like to ask the contractor, is, you know, you're excavating all this, and I know the soil is like rock, shale, sand, there's white stuff gonna go in the air. You know, like when you do a construction project and you put like a line on it to create a barrier so that you can contain all the elements from basically drifting everywhere else. What are you gonna do to assure me that my pool is not gonna have to be drained, or that, you know, the hot tub is not gonna be affected, or the patio is not gonna change colors of my windows, I'm not gonna have to wash them every day?
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. What we can do is we could put a temporary fence up with the privacy screening, the green privacy screening. That's a physical barrier that we can do.
How high does that go up?
8 foot. I mean, it's not gonna help with dusting, but
8 foot is really gonna.
well, it'll help.
I mean, I've seen stuff downtown which is 2 stories high.
Yes.
You
So
know?
we're not cutting concrete and creating like fine dust. We'll be digging, and we're digging in water, so it's coming out wet. You know,
Actually, I've seen it, you've got like heavy shale there.
yes.
It goes down 6 feet, yeah, and you gotta get down 4 or 5 feet just to get to the water.
Correct, and we'll also, prior to we get to that rock, we can have a hose down and be hosing the dig site down as we go to keep the dust down.
I was opposed to the board, that I see something in writing that gives me some remedy in the event that basically they don't do what they say they're gonna do. I mean, it's like,
Well, they could do that with them, that's my presumption that the discussions between the owners and their legal team will address all these points, and in your final settlement, if it comes to a settlement, will address every point you've made, Mr. Barton.
well, we have 5 easements, and we have a lot of legalese going over everything. But one of the terms on our term sheet was to deal with this element that's not on any of those documents.
Well,
So I really want it settled that, you know, I'm gonna, like, I've done so many construction projects on my property that I don't have to do another one after this is over.
And I think we understand that, and we want to, me as a contractor, we want to respect the neighborhood that we work in, and, you know, I live right down the road, you know, we want to be as respectful as possible. You know, construction, we've all been associated with construction projects. We do everything we can to mitigate.
I'm sure you are,
Absolutely.
and I'm not looking for words from you. I'm looking for something in agreement.
Yeah.
That's enticing.
Right.
So I
heard you're gonna do a construction easement, right?
I should probably handle it there. Yeah, but it doesn't address the garbage, dust, and debris, you know.
Well,
The means of method will be to, you know, in demolition work, you water it down.
Yep.
Yes.
And you constantly water, and that's the acceptable way of controlling dust. That's what we intend to do. In fact, I talked to Art about that. But we will give him whatever additional language or letter will be written by Art.
Talk about it, 8 foot, is that the only one they have, you know, like 16 foot, like,
We could
Or
build,
barrier or something
we
like
could
that?
build a barrier if the town would let us, like if that's something.
I mean, I'm saying, it's gonna be almost an acre of soil that goes down 4 feet and stuff. It's gonna be like a quarry.
And obviously, these points
This
have to
is
be.
blue light limestone, so I'm particularly familiar with blue light limestone, because I've actually moved the largest movement of a blue light limestone structure from one location to another location, plus restored it. So I have substantial knowledge. Blue light limestone cracks and breaks, it doesn't pulverize like the concern that he has. But I know that, Art is very knowledgeable. It's equivalent, you treat it as though it's a demolition site, you water it down. And I told him, yesterday, I had a conversation with him, we will continuously water it. As far as his site, I already told him that Art is going to be retained for the purposes up to 1 hour a day at the end of each workday. He will send a workman over to clean up, a laborer to clean up whatever, if there is any type of problems. And we already made that commitment, but, we'll have some.
Can you make that in the agreement this time?
Excuse me?
Can you make it in writing this time, Ken?
We should do that right.
Yeah. And gentlemen, I'm going to say that those points, the term sheet will be a discussion to all those points. We can't go into those details. We have to make sure we can take account of, are the neighbours happy with what way we're moving forward? And we said that the agreement between the two of you, which addresses all those points, go and lock yourselves in a room, and I'm not being flippant here, but it's how you discuss that, whatever you come up with. But we have to make sure that we've already said that you've said that, Mr. Murphy, you said you were that close, right?
Yeah, there's very little details. We've gotten through all the complicated.
And Mr. Barton obviously has concerns,
But there's a little
that we
detail
address
that we
them.
will add to it. We already.
Yeah, we understand.
I already talked to Art about it, so that's.
Okay.
I would just like to see this within the next 24 to 48 hours. I don't want to get it on Tuesday night at 11 o'clock at night.
Mr. Murphy, do you want to say anything?
For the sake of my client, what those of us who've lived here for decades.
I know.
If a contractor in this town does not do what the contractor promised to do, and the owner, and one calls this town manager, they send somebody out that day within an hour. They don't tolerate, contractors in this town who abuse the neighbors' rights and privileges. This is gonna be memorialized, and if something happens untoward, my client, Tom Barton, their neighbor, gets on the phone and calls this town will respond to him. And Mr. Robbins has agreed that he's gonna memorialize what he just said with respect to the contractor and keep their feet to the fire, Tom.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a little inexperienced. I'm a virgin as far as it comes to.
Your anxiety is well understood.
There is a path, my first experience.
Yeah, there is a path forward.
Yes, I'm William Martin, again, I introduced myself earlier. At the last meeting, I expressed, a concern that the area, the neighborhood in question is a fairly rural area, quite quaint. We're having a discussion here that sounds like we're building a Crossroads office building down on Atlantic Avenue. This is not what I envision going on in a neighborhood in Gulf Street. We have a neighbor who's very concerned about his property and what dust and pollution might fall on his property. Well, we have what is it, roughly a 4-acre or 3-acre bird sanctuary right next to this project. Who's going to be looking out for what detrimental effects are being had on that bird sanctuary and on the wildlife that's in there? There's nobody that's looking out for that. And for all we know, the dust from this line or whatever it is that's underground could have a detrimental effect on and that would be very sad if we were to discover that 2 years later. So I don't quite understand, the board is looking at landscaping plans to me, as a neighbor, this whole project just doesn't fit in the neighborhood. I don't even understand why we're looking that far ahead. To me, this should be voted no.
I have to point about the landscaping. The landscaping is being considered because the point was raised, and we do have clear lines, but it's one of the things we're considering.
I know that my neighbor, Joe Morris, who's spoken, he visits on the next canal up on the other side of the street. And his next door neighbor is I believe she's still alive, an older widow. His property is in somewhat disrepair, and obviously it's going to come on the market one of these days. And I was talking to him because he owns a 90-foot yacht, amongst other boats. I asked him, I said, what would prevent you from buying up that piece of property and building a marina in there for your boat if the village goes ahead and sets a precedent of allowing a marina being built across the street? I think there's serious implications on this that I'm really surprised how we even got to this point in the village of Gulfstream. So I just want to express my reservations and my disappointment. I've invested a substantial amount of money in building a home on Hidden Harbor, and I didn't think that this kind of development would be considered in the area.
Thank you. Mr. Morris.
Yes, we haven't seen any engineering drawings. He mentioned the sanctuary. When the water gets drained to the site, it's obviously going to go down to the sanctuary. We don't know what they're doing with the water. We'd like to see some drawings as to how they're handling the engineering on the site. Okay. We do not want anything going to the sanctuary. Protect that.
Thank you. In terms of legally the FD environmental protection, is there anything that is in the structure of considering this application that would require the Department of Environmental Protection to be involved? Taking the point of Mr. Martin about the center.
Well, I mean, they'll have to put, what's known as silt fencing.
Yeah, we can put, silt fencing,
well, you would have to.
We will put silt fencing around the stockpile, around, at the edge of the property where it meets the bird sanctuary. Another aspect of this is it will go through the Department of Environmental Protection and the Army Corps as a requirement before it comes through. Making sure that we can.
With respect to the silt fencing, the problem on construction sites is that usually gets, buried, during the construction. And so the silt fencing would need to be maintained really on a daily basis. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you drive by a construction site and the black fencing is just laying on the ground.
When do you expect the Army Corps of Engineers and all that to be?
We've had discussions with the Army Corps of Engineering and the SEC, and we've got the process as far as how we're going to apply for it. We'll apply for an exemption permit for the construction of the bulkhead, an exemption permit for the docks because it meets their requirements based on the size, and then the removal of the existing bulkhead would be a general permit. A general permit that we would submit for. So we have all those in line. I guess we don't want to move. We've had the discussions with them. They're on board with it. We know the procedure. Want to make sure that everything is safe before we make the application to the DEP and Army Corps. But we should be able to secure those permits in probably 45 to 60 days.
Isn't this a condition proceeding to the commission's granting its approval? the Army Corps and environmental.
May I take that? Yeah. Yeah, it's totally, because it addresses the point about.
Condition subsequent, but it's got to be a condition, because what's happening here is the permit is coming before the Army Corps and environmental, and I thought, I was told that it was the other. I thought, pardon me, but I thought that you had gotten the approvals of the Army Corps and environmental before the application for permit.
Right, and I agree with that. It would all be approved prior to issuance of any kind of building permit for the construction. So no construction could proceed forward until DEP and Army Corps permits are in hand and presented to the building department.
But also those permits from the Army Corps and FDP, permissions, those would be, something that the commission would want to know. The point about addressing bird sanctuaries has been covered, but the FDP is happy with it.
FDP is not going to get involved in that. The FDP is going to be involved with any kind of activities that are going to be seaward of any high water line. So anything with the bird sanctuary would be through the town.
Yeah, I mean, the silt fencing will be required by, Delaware.
Okay.
Yes, just so you're aware, we are concerned about the bird sanctuary. The bird sanctuary has not been maintained since the 80s. It's fenced in, it's overrun by iguanas, raccoons, and foxes. There are an amazing number of exotic plants there that are not appropriate for the sanctuary. There has been no investment by any governmental entity into maintaining that site. In fact, Mr. Benjamin addressed that with me because I have a relationship with the Sierra Club. And he asked me to see what could be done. I said, well, the first thing we need to do is have an inventory of all the trees and the plants. But I don't know if the government even has the type of money that it takes to do that. But unfortunately, it's in terrible disrepair. It hasn't been really taken care of. The birds can't even lay eggs there because the iguanas will feed them off. It's unfortunate, and it's something that maybe aspirationally we can look forward, and maybe even this board to have a meeting on that issue and ask the town commission to take a look at it, because it will take money to do that. I know that Mr. Benjamin wants to be part of that solution. One of the reasons he purchased it because it was adjacent to the bird sanctuary. So as far as the impact on the bird sanctuary, we're talking about essentially the excavation and concrete, the amount of debris that would be airborne would be less than what a house, one single family home of 10,000 square feet or 8,000 square feet would create in a neighborhood. We're talking about de minimis because we're talking about excavation. Most of it is lower. It's not going to blow around. It's going to stay on site to be watered down. So I don't think that that's a serious issue. The water would come into, the water will be screened. There's a screening process for the water. There should not be any type of negative adverse impact. If somebody wanted to bring in and have an expert report just showing it otherwise, then we would certainly modify our means of construction. But there's no indication of that whatsoever. This is less impactful than a single family home in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If that's the public discussion part, sorry, Mrs. Muns.
I have a serious question. I just get this feeling we're starting from the wrong end of the equation here about approving landscaping. There are so many questions about this construction project that have not been answered. I mean, frankly, Mark Marsh designed my house, our house. And I thought his presentation was professional, prepared, articulate. And what I've heard today, they've had a month for this major project. I mean, it's embarrassing. I did a sketch last night. I was called yesterday, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is a major, major project. And I got 4 pages of questions. So I'm not impressed. And, you can talk all you want. I'm not impressed. There's been nothing presented. I was very impressed by Mark Marsh. He did a beautiful job on your house, and I appreciate that. It's a very complicated piece of property. So you did answer some questions about the excavator. I appreciate that. My husband's in construction. We are concerned about the condition of the Hidden Harbor Road because it's gonna take a lot of abuse. It took a lot of abuse during the 6-acre subdivision. It's taken 11 years of abuse over Mr. Marty O'Boyle, which I've got to witness for 11 years. So we get it, and it's having some issues already. We would like to know, after we've got excavators, dump trucks, soil, cement trucks, for 4 months during rainy season, weighing God knows how many thousands of pounds, that our road up to a certain point will be completely repaved. My husband is recommending a 2-inch spec, and he wants an engineering proposal in writing that gets done, because our road is going to be chewed up. If some trees get damaged, there's not much we can do about it. We've already seen some tree damage along the canopy. As Mr. Barton bought his property and paid a good value for being on the waterfront here in Gulfstream, we love Gulfstream, I love Gulfstream. We pay for our property too. We pay, I think to get waterfront value here in Gulfstream, probably adds about $1.5 million to the value of your property, the waterfront. So I get that. And we love the canopy, the Martin. It has a beautiful, charming accent. You know, we're the only ones that live there, but we do love it. And everybody comments when they come to our home how beautiful it is. And we also love the bird sanctuary. I understand the sanctuary has been deeded to the town, so I don't know what Mr. Benjamin's rights are to cleaning it up. It is deeded to the town, correct? Mm-hmm. Thank you. So all taxpayers have a say in what goes on with the sanctuary. We love it. We see owls, the fox come and drink water out of my pool, so I don't see foxes vermin, I see them as wildlife. The iguanas is another story. So that's my concern. Also, as I stated at the last meeting, I think this is completely out of character to Gulfstream to allow this kind of project. I think it sets a very bad precedent. The property next door to us is a very unsightly older home that today could not be built architecturally. And my husband and I have always imagined we would like to potentially buy that piece of property. And I'm thinking, well, if Mr. Benjamin gets to dig out almost a quarter of an acre of land to build a boat basin, maybe if we buy that lot, I'll make a proposal to dig a boat basin because we happen to own a boat larger than Mr. Benjamin. So those are some of my concerns. I have some questions, but I think I've addressed them in terms of the weight on the road, how many loads of soil are going to come out a day. But I guess that will just determine, that's just going to destroy the road, so that's kind of a given if this project is approved. I do understand from the last meeting that Mr. Benjamin's existing seawall is going to stay in place as they dig behind it. And that's going to be holding back the water and soil of the canal. From what I understand, that seawall is in poor shape. What if that gets undermined and collapses during construction? That seawall is also then connected by the corner to Mr. Barton's property and to the sanctuary, which that seawall is then the taxpayer's responsibility of Gulfstream because we own it. It was deeded to us, correct? So I have a concern about that structural accident happening. And if the seawall of the town sanctuary was damaged, would Mr. Benjamin and Mr. Smith be financially liable for the repairs of that seawall? That's a concern of mine. These questions can be tried to be answered, or we can just put them on the record as questions and deal with them next time. We have some concerns also with how far back the 100 feet this is being dug, and if you see the property, it goes up a hillside, and that is an old septic field. And I know from Mrs. Turing, when we were family before she passed away, she had a lot of problems with that septic system. Backups and stuff, it was very old. So that material is coming out. I don't know if there's a concern there. But also something else that we visualized was now that this structure with this wall and Mr. Smith carved out, that now you've got drainage all coming just to the north side. We happen to have a lot of water problem at the bottom of Hidden Harbor Hill, the hill. It's been like that since we've lived there. We've all tried to address it. We can't seem to get the pitch. So during rainy season, which this project is supposed to be done during rainy season, there's always a big puddle there. And it's always a mess. So now, potentially, we've got more water from that property draining towards the same direction, which also puts more water draining towards the sanctuary, which could be a problem. I don't know. It's something that needs to be looked into. water needs to go somewhere, and gravity takes it down. So, that's also a concern. This morning, I was a little concerned, not heard about a third boat. The drawing showed 2 boats, 3 docks, a boat lift, a 62-foot super yacht. Now we're talking about a third boat. This is one of our concerns. Also, Mr. Benjamin may on a whim decide he doesn't really like that yacht anymore. He's going to buy himself an 85-foot Merit or Ritovich with a tuna tower on it. So now, 100 feet up in his yard is a sport fish. His dock, his property, he can buy a different boat. My husband and I have owned 5 boats in our marriage. So, now we're talking about a third boat. And is it true here in Gulfstream that you cannot dock another boat alongside your dock, or is that not true? I don't know I don't know the town code. I know you cannot dock, only your own personal boat will be docked at your dock. That I do know. Could you moor another dock, could you dock another dock alongside, a boat alongside your own boat, another boat?
Basically,
parallel
park.
No, it's like, you know.
Parallel park.
Yeah.
No.
Only one, okay. So now we're hearing about a third boat, so that's a change. Also, this 50-foot carve out for Mr. Smith, is that physically needed for Mr. Benjamin to maneuver his boat into this 100 by 100 foot boat basement?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
It would be helpful.
Would be helpful. So that really isn't, that's there, I'm gathering, for other reasons. Based on the town code with dock alignment, it's 15 feet rather, off your property, 15 feet off the other property to provide privacy. Obviously, Mr. O'Boyle had to take out his illegal column, because he was against code in numerous ways. Shockingly, he took it out. But that was one of them. That was a big concern of Mr. Street. It was a concern also of the other neighbor, but it was done. So when I visualized Mr. and Mrs. Smith sitting on their dock, their dugout, carved out little mini dock, their now waterfront property, they're basically sitting in the backyard of Mr. Benjamin's property. And that really is awkward and odd and really defies the whole purpose of privacy from the end up. So I guess that's their choice, but I find that a little odd. Finally, with the dredging of the canal, there are 6 votes. I guess we talked about that. 2 would be to the town because the sanctuary was deeded into 2 lots. For the town votes, is that true? That's what I was told. So the town gets 2 votes. You have to allow someone to dredge. I'm assuming Mr. Benjamin is going to have to dredge this canal in order to, and then you've got the 4 homeowners. So how many homeowners does it take to approve someone to dredge? What's the vote?
From a legal point of view.
Yes.
We haven't looked into that. That issue was brought up last meeting, and it was specifically said that it was not part of this application. So we have kind of tabled that, but we are going to look into it. As they indicated at today's meeting, that was sort of in the works, meeting with some of those homeowners.
But is there a town, I mean, like here, you have to have a 3-to-1 vote to approve it.
I'm not aware of whether or not it's a majority. I imagine it would probably not be because it's your own private property. It didn't be outvoted. I mean, they all own to the center of the canal. So the southern property owners own to the center of the canal, the northern property owners used to be the first sanctuary owns to the center of the canal, so it's how it's divided up.
Right.
So it's actually private property. It's not sort of just a common waterway.
So, meaning what in terms of a vote?
Nothing in terms of voting, saying that there was a private property interest that we haven't looked into to determine whether or not that would be like a vote, or if it's just one person to be able to say you're not
going to touch my area. Okay.
Can I just clarify that? That would be a separate application.
That is not anything that's before the ARPS. Correct. They've indicated that, I guess, Mr. Benjamin's representatives have indicated that we meet with the property owners to come to some sort of agreement on that, perhaps. But
Just the 4 southern property owners.
Correct.
Yeah, and then there's the town, that is the north property.
Yes, sir.
And the town may or may not,
Yeah,
two
up to
parts.
their own,
Look at
they
it.
say centralized, and then they discuss it.
Okay. No, let us know what you find out.
So in closing, I've heard a lot of promises, a lot of talk, not a very impressive, presentation at all from all points. I mean, like I said, Mark Marshall's presentation was very impressive, and he was able to answer all the questions articulately. I've been truly unimpressed by this is a very complicated project. There's been nothing like this approved in the town before, and we really didn't get any questions answered today. And frankly, the push for them to want to get started because of getting it done before November, that's not my concern. If he really was that anxious to get it done, he'd be more prepared. I also gathered from Mr. Barton that he has had, he's had some difficult conversations, had to hire a lawyer, been told things that maybe he felt weren't so truthful, and given the runaround. And I had a recent encounter with Mr. Benjamin over something very, very simple. I know some of the town codes. It's not something I normally sit around and read and really care, except we live across the canal from Mr. O'Boyle. So I sat down and read online, because of concerns. Of course, they really didn't go anywhere because he's been allowed to do what he wants, but hopefully that'll be done soon. So I know that, you cannot leave your garbage cans out. So that in the morning, you put them away. Big deal. So I also know that you can't have, boats, trailers, campers, whatever laying around your property in Boston. We keep a very tight ship around here. It's a beautiful town. Great. So all of a sudden, the garbage can shows up at the bottom of the hill. The back driveway, the service driveway, the entrance driveway, which I drive by every day. I'm thinking, why is that garbage can out? Sitting there for a week, another week, then another garbage can shows up. So I'm like, this isn't to code. And then there's a boat trailer. As we've noted, Mr. Benjamin has a lot of vehicles and trailers and things. Now that they've cleared the canopy a little bit underneath, you can see in there, but that's his property. And then there's a boat trailer sitting there, and that sat there for a few weeks, and very unsightly, and I know it's against code. So one of the local police officers, they're very friendly, I forget which one, they're always coming down our street, we're very friendly, and I said, he goes, yeah, that's not the code. He goes, I'll take care of that for you. So I said, great. So weeks later, I get a phone call from Mr. Benjamin. It wasn't very pleasant, it wasn't very nice, it was a little rude. My husband was on the speakerphone with me, and, hey, how you doing? Got a problem? Kind of, I'm paraphrasing, correct me if I'm wrong. And I knew what it was about. I said, well, garbage cans, I don't see this. He said, well, they just have, leaves and stuff, it's not wet garbage. I said, well, lucky for you, because the right food book in them, but that's not the code. The garbage cans need to be put out more in the garbage, Wednesday and Saturday, he clarified, and then they go in. He's got a lot of help, get it full time. I put out my own garbage cans. Not a big deal. So he says to me, anything else? I said, no. That boat trailer. He says, it doesn't bother you that much. I said, well, as a matter of fact, it does. It's against code, and I don't really want to look at your boat trailer sitting there. It does. I can tell you to move your mailbox. When we bought our property 11 years ago, our home was built in 1996. I'm assuming that my mailbox was where it was in 1996. I think it's original. And it is along the sanctuary. From what I've learned, Mr. Benjamin has a 15 or 10 foot right of way along Hidden Harbor to maintain the land. And the reason that I think that was put in because there used to be irrigation that functioned, which no longer functions, and there were these downlightings that no longer function. The electricity had been turned off, they were broken anyway. And I think that's why that was written into those codes. But he doesn't own the sanctuary. He doesn't own the land along the sanctuary, but he had a right of way to the 15-foot setback. I could have challenged it. I think I was legally right. I didn't want to get into it. So I said to my husband, when we hung up, immediately I called my contractor. 8 o'clock the next morning, I had my mailbox moved. I don't want a problem with my neighbor. So he's threatening me, if you won't move his trailer, because I might make you move your mailbox. I moved my mailbox, it's fine. I like where I put it, looks great. still have a problem with the trailer. 4 or 5 days later, doesn't want to move it. He's got 2.63 acres of land. He can't find a place to put that boat trailer. The trailer will go to like a 15 or 20 foot boat, I guess. He doesn't want to look at it, but he wants me to look at it. So now it's been moved. There is I understand from Mr. Dunn, letter's been written, that he's covered it with camouflage covering, which is, I'm assuming, not something Gulfstream wants to allow camouflage netting on things. It's not far from where it was. I still can see it directly when I drive in and out. So I tell you that story because I think it gives you a little idea of what we're dealing with here. And I wasn't going to tell the story. It was not on my plan this morning, but from hearing what Mr. Barton's gone through and the tone of a lot of placating and yes, we'll do this and yes, we'll do that, but there's nothing in writing, it leaves a bad feeling about what you might be engaging with. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Morris. The town itself, just the points that were raised in terms of enforcement, that isn't really a remit of this board. That's the ongoing discussions with the police and.
That's correct.
Yeah, point taken, Mrs. Morris, but that's not, it's not to dismiss it, but on the other hand, it's not the part of this board. You're dealing with that, not Mr. Benjamin, Mrs. Morris, they're addressing it, okay? Our remit to consider now. So, Mr. Collins, if you have any further discussion.
Just a short matter. I just want to make it clear that we are following the rules and regulations of this board and going through the process. This is not a complicated project. It's complicated with respect to Mr. Barton and Mr. Murphy and I as far as the paperwork. But as far as a construction project, it's just digging out a hole and looking up seawalls. This is not complicated. It's very simple. Everybody understands what we intend to do. And I think everybody recognizes there's no prohibition to do that. And under Florida law, under the property rights, under the Florida Constitution, we have a right to go forward with this with, of course, reasonable regulations by this board. So we are looking to you to help us with those regulations and help us get through this process, trying to work with our neighbors and trying to do the right thing. It's not always easy, and everybody has their own perspective. And you're one side of the fence, you're on the other side of the fence, and depending on where you are, you have a different view of how things are going. But we intend to follow the rules, regulations, whatever additional information you have, we will provide it, and we will comply. We have a sophisticated contractor who has done work in this town, and it's well known. We brought in somebody that has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. Art has done a number of projects in this area. So we're bringing in the best that we can to do it the right way. And we don't expect anything we don't expect this contractor to compromise himself while he's doing this project. But it really is a simple project, getting, and exaggerated as far as how complicated we explain. You guys understood it, understood, every member of this board understood what we're trying to do. We will get the submission to staff on on Monday, I think it is, by 2 o'clock. Hopefully, we'll have the additional set of landscape plans, if he'd be so kind as to me to review those plans, and we can move this along. Our intent to get this done by November was to do this during the summer when most people are away. And that's where we believe that was what the town wants us to do, is any heavy construction be done during the summer when the majority of the people are not here. That is a deadline that was really imposed upon us. So that is why we're rushing this to get this done now. We really appreciate your time. I know you've had some time to talk about this. Reasonable conditions. I think this could be done with just conditions, but I understand you want to have some more information before you make your final vote. But if we can get a preliminary approval subject to us bringing back these specific plans for the landscape and driveway, we would appreciate that done today. And then we just come back and focus on that narrow issue on Tuesday. That's possible.
Okay, can I respond to that? The application as it's presented some of the feedback we've had is we see the possibility to move this forward, but initially there was the one condition between the two parts of the discussion. However, it's become apparent that the whole package needs to be considered as a whole. We're trying to get, accommodate the need to potentially reduce the impact because of doing building in the rainy season. However, my feeling is that we need the whole presentation to consider in the whole. Otherwise, it's very difficult to take on board, well, you said that at this meeting and now we're only talking about that part. I take your point that the project itself, from purely logistical, from a construction point of view, may not be difficult. But the fact that there's so much interest from the neighbours and concerns, and genuine concerns, I think that we should look at in its entirety when it comes back. What we're trying to see is if we can speed that forward to address it, and it's really fitting in with it, whether it's possible, and we said that if we met on a Tuesday morning, taking account of timelines, Good Friday, etc., your deadline to receive any information would be Monday.
Monday would be the best.
Well, if we're meeting on, if we meet
Yeah.
on Tuesday morning,
Correct.
we have to review it. We have to review it. Because there's many points that have been raised.
Otherwise, we defer.
Otherwise, not fair.
I just learned. Yes.
It's a very, very tight, it's a very tight schedule.
Yes, the issue with,
Sorry.
the issue with hearing it next week is that you're asking for specific things, for example, landscape rendering. The town manager is responsible for making recommendations to the board, so I don't know that if you get to 2 o'clock, you can sit down, make a recommendation, and we can circulate those materials to you to review overnight, essentially. I mean, that's really on the board. If that's
That
something
point
you
well
want
taken. That point is well taken. I think the project itself, as you explained, is relatively straightforward, but there's so many moving parts to this that have to be in alignment. And I think rushing it leaves the open possibility of us overseeing something and also not fulfilling our responsibility. That's my feeling.
I agree.
So in that case, sorry, Mrs. Mike, do you want to say something? Thanks, Ms. Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I appreciate, because you're saying what I'm feeling. The fact that this gentleman, Mr. Benjamin's lawyer, feels that this is no big deal. This is the first time any kind of project like this has ever been proposed in Gulfstream. I understand that's why it can't be denied, because it has nothing to compare it to. So it's basically an open-ended thing. Somebody's basically carving out almost a quarter of an acre of their property and creating a private mini boat base and yacht marina. So there's no precedent, but you're setting precedents, which you have to think about. So this is a very complicated project. I don't think it's that simple. You've got major construction, you've got water issues, water table, walls, seawalls being undermined. Our seawall has issues, as I mentioned at the last meeting, that we have to deal with. The seawalls, I believe those seawalls were built at the same time as ours. They're old. They all have issues. So there's stress on that. The environment, the character of the property. This is not a simple project at all. And I feel for Mr. Barton, he's going to really have to look at it. Boat lights, whatever, boats coming and going. And the fact that he would like to get it done this summer is not my concern. If he has to wait till next summer, if that's where it goes, so be it. He's got, the way it goes. Just because he's in a rush doesn't mean that we have to rush this through on his back. Thank you.
Let me just say to as the board, we do try and expedite as quickly as possible applications because of the need from the owners. They obviously want to improve their property, their homes. However, we don't want to be in a position where we rush. And taking the point, I think there's just so many moving parts and interest in this that we have to get it right.
We're talking about doing this in a timely fashion. They don't have the external approvals and permits yet, although they say they're prepared to get it. So we don't know when this can start. So it's so open-ended, there's no point in rushing this thing until those other permits come through.
Yeah, there was reference to 30 to 60 days for the.
I've done this before, and I've had a year waiting for permits approvals.
If you like that.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah, that's a step down there, which we're trying to control what we can control.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. He's trying to rush this thing because he thinks he's getting the ground. He's not going to get in the ground. Because there's no need to rush it. Let's do it thoroughly. and make a decision.
We will consider every single point, because as I said, we are responsible to the commission.
I know.
And we've done our part before they come to.
And it's in our best interest to get you educated as to what both sides are talking about and make your decision.
So I'd like to make a motion to defer application 21-5 to the next meeting, which is
April 22nd.
What is it? April 22nd.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
In the event that this doesn't move forward immediately and it has to go another year, I would like to ask the person that's going to do the wall, what's going to happen with the existing wall? The existing wall is compromised and it's failing. Part of the reason why they don't do this summer is so that they don't have to do the wall twice.
Mr. Barrow, can I suggest that goes into your discussion?
No, I would just like to ask the person doing the wall, if this project doesn't go forward this summer, how long is that wall going to stay the way it is before it collapses into the canal?
So we did put some mitigating, very temporary, quick,
I understand.
Wood pilings.
Which are not temporary.
It's temporary. And we dug behind the wall to relieve the hydrostatic pressure. So
Can it stay like that for another year?
No guarantee on an old wall that's failing.
Right.
But we've done what we feel is necessary to keep it in place to prevent it from falling.
I guess we'll find out when the king tides come back in October and November.
I mean, short of building a new wall, that's what we've done is the least impactful. We can't, it's not practical to come in and slam in big concrete batter piles and form and pour a new concrete cap. We have a temporary system that's in place that's holding just fine and should stand the test of time and king tide.
So the question is, will it stand the test of another year?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
We can look at it again to make sure.
Yeah.
Because if it collapses,
We've
it's a bigger problem.
got a motion in hand, but
We need a second.
we need to second. We did have a motion.
Can we have discussion before we go on the
Yeah,
motion?
but we can have the motion, we'll have a second and then the discussion, and then whether we call that back.
May I have a chance to speak? Okay, so I think a lot of people have gotten the wrong impression today, and we have complete respect for Lemon Hill. That's why we bought it. We love the property. And we're only here to try to improve the neighborhood and make things better for everybody. It's going to improve the property values. We have a map of the 10 canals, which are already in Gulfstream. Ours is one of the smallest ones. So I don't think we're doing anything out of the unusual. Happy to spread this around, but within the Gulfstream jurisdiction, there are 10 canals, and ours is the smallest one. We're just trying to increase our area a little bit. We have Mr. Smith, who's a neighbor. I believe he's in full support of the project. He lives right next door to it. It's going to be a benefit to him. I believe with Tom, we're going to work everything out to our mutual satisfaction. It has not been easy, but it's going to be resolved within a day or two by our very capable attorneys. As far as the Marses, I'm sorry about the garbage can. The boat trailer, we've done our best to hide it. It'll be gone soon. And I just don't know what to say. I just hate to see this delayed for a whole nother month, because then we're not going to make any way we're going to start on May 1st. And we do not want to do this in a quiet winter period, the way Mr. Barton did his project. And we were affected by his project. We didn't complain about it. There was jackhammering, pile driving, that was happening all during November, December. We never said anything about it. We're not complaining neighbors. We're just trying to be good neighbors and work with everybody. As far as Mrs. Morris stating the strip along the bird sanctuary, that is deeded property as part of Lemon Hill. It's not a right of way. It's deeded property, and we've established that. As far as what should happen in the bird sanctuary, we have no intention of going into the bird sanctuary ourselves. We've asked for a buffer zone along our property. We believe that some of the other neighbors may have gone into the bird sanctuary and done some trimming on their own.
something should happen with the bird sanctuary, we should do it collaboratively. Perhaps we could all make some donations and figure out a way to do it charitably and make a benefit out of that sanctuary that would improve things for everybody. But, we're not here to be bad people. We're here to talk to you, and we have some of the most professional people we could get. Art, the builder, Chris, the landscape architect, Bill, the engineer, Ken, the attorney. John is on this every day doing the right thing for Lemon Health. And we have complete respect for the property, for the town, and for our neighbors. So I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's important that we hear, obviously from the applicant himself. I'd just like to make one point about timeline. Yes, we have to do it properly, and, we know what we'd like to do, but they don't always align with what we have to do. But one of the things about building in, you said it was a 4-month build? Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking in November, and
Yeah,
if
you're
looking at November and work backwards, the May, and obviously when's the commission meeting after the April 22nd?
Then May 14th.
Yeah, right, so it's not, there's a potential to still get online with the timeline.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is
even if
it
we go
November
down.
1 or is it November 29?
Yeah, yeah.
The season starts December 1.
Okay.
Right, so we still have a window,
Yes.
but we can't rush through things. So if you like, if we meet all these conditions, proposals, and we move forward, the commission still have their opportunity to review, and you aren't held up to get your necessary permits to hit ideally what you want.
Correct.
We have to take
Once
it.
we get everything approved and we'll make a collaborative decision on whether we should proceed. Like, do we have is this realistic timeframe to hit?
Right.
And where we don't affect any.
Yeah, because we want to minimize the impact.
Get to a substantial, point of completion.
But there's still some slack in there at the moment for us to move forward and not constrain that timeline.
Correct.
Okay. In that case, Bob, would you like to make a motion again?
Well, I made a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Seconded, we just take the vote.
In that case.
All right. Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Vice Chairman? Murphy?
Yes. And with that, I'd like to hand the meeting back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Are there any items by staff that need to be brought before the committee today or board? Any items by board members? Okay. We've had the public comments, but are there any other public comments about an issue other than item number 3 on the agenda? None? Anything else? We're adjourned. Thank
Just a minute now. You're expecting call, but I want to discuss it with you because the agreement between us and you and I have not been Yes, John. Oh, no, I didn't.